Hi. So in this real quick video, let's just make let's make two small improvements to our character. One of them is, or the first one is that right now, and once it plays, we still have our cursor here. So like my cursor is moving around. That's not like nice, we when the cursor is moving around, our eyes kind of tend to focus on that. Most games don't have their cursor showing, so let's just remove it. So even when we play test our like experience, we can just see we can play test it correctly rather than having that cursor there being very distracting. Very easy to do. You can make a separate script for it, but because our character motor is basically empty right now, I'm sorry, character movement is basically empty right now, I'm just gonna do it here. All we need to do is type cursor, which gives us access to a cursor class, which represents like the cursor on screen. This has a variable called lock state, and we want to set that to cursor lock mode dot locked. There's three lock modes. There's none, which is the default, where it's just we see the cursor. There's locked. This will center our cursor to the center of the game, and it'll make it invisible. And finally, there's confined. Confined, just you can still move the cursor around, but it confines it to the game window. I don't think this affects it in the Unity editor, but if you build your game and launch the exe, it'll affect it there. So on start, we'll just lock our cursor, and then if at any point you have like a menu or something and some UI which they can interact with the mouse, well, you can just toggle the cursor lock mode, maybe using a button or something. To go between locked and none. And it was simple as that. When I hit play, we can see my cursor is gone. And just again, this makes the game just like look nicer to play, feel nicer to play, really, I should say, because we don't have that cursor kind of annoying us. If you do want to get your cursor back at any point in the editor, we just hit escape and the cursor pops up. You can click again on the screen to have your cursor vanish and then hit escape to get your cursor back. So we can still have our cursor, pop in and out. Convenient. And it makes our game like just a little bit easier to test because we don't have that distracting cursor with us. Okay, the next little improvement is right now, and just to illustrate this, I'm going to add a cube to my character. And I'll remove the box collider from it because we don't need it. And this is just kind of represent, it's like a visor, kind of shows us the direction our character is looking at. This X direction is forward. Our character is looking forward right now. If I was to play this and walk around, I can even look in different directions. You can see it doesn't matter what direction I'm going in. My character is always looking straight. And this didn't matter much when we were just a capsule because well, we couldn't actually see the rotation of our character, but later when we add our character mesh, this is going to look really weird that our character doesn't rotate. And so let's just add that functionality in. So later on when we add a character mesh, this makes sense. In the next video, I'm also going to show you a dash mechanic where this is going to be necessary. So it's super simple. Let's add that. Let's just think about exactly what we want. I told you that this x-axis represents forward, right? So whenever our character rotates, if I go back to move, you can see that forward changes. So really, whatever direction we're moving in, I want our forward to represent that. And so the way I'm going to have it work in my game is when I rotate the mouse, my character is not going to rotate to face that direction. But when I hit a keyboard key, whatever direction the character is moving in relative to our camera, the character is going to be facing in that direction. So if I'm looking this way and I hold W, the character is going to be looking, straight forward. If I'm holding A, the character is going to be looking, to the left kind of thing and running. Same thing as right. So it's going to be relative to the camera direction and the direction that we're pressing on the keyboard. But if I'm pressing no keys and I'm rotating the camera around the player, we're not going to rotate the player, to match the camera. And I think this is standard for all third-person games. First-person games, it might be different. But I think for most third-person games, this is kind of how it's handled. So let us go into our character motor here. We can add another helper function. All the helper functions that relate to our character's movement, we are just going to put in here. And really, we just need one helper function, and it's going to be, I'll call it face move. It's going to face the direction we're moving, right? And we have in our construct movement, we use a variable called move. So we can request that same variable, vector3 move, which is going to be the direction that we're moving in. And all we want to do is set our transform.forward to that move. So we're just taking our transform forward for the character and just turning it to match the direction of movement. Just to make this function a little more robust, there could be times where there's like some input jitter, you know, so like maybe you're using a controller and you recenter the stick and the input just jitters a bit. So instead of having our character face in a lot of different directions, let's just make sure our move values value is large enough. And so if it's a very small value, we don't want to do anything. So we're going to say if move.square magnitude, magnitude is the size of the move. So it's not the numbers, but it's the overall size of it. And we use square magnitude because it's just a much quicker thing to calculate. They both essentially do the same thing. We're just going to check if it's bigger than some very small number. So I'll do 0.0001. And only if it's bigger than this number will I do transform.forward equals move. Okay, we have this helper function. Let's just use it in our different states. So in our air state and our grounded state, right after I make this move vector, I'm going to call motor dot, what do I call it, face move, and pass move along to it. Same thing in the air state, somewhere here, there you go. Motor dot face move. Save that, and then just give it a shot. Oh, and something is weird here. I think my pivot's off, so let me just take a look at that. And so if we were to look at it right now, my character, my player center is over here. Let me just change it from center to pivot. So my player's center is over here. My capsule is just moved somehow. It's just offset. So I'm just going to zero everything out, 0, 0, 0. And this should be fine now. And so you can see with the keyboard, if I tap in the direction, my character is now facing that. If I hold W, they're still rotating to face that. And, you know, again, when we add our character, this is going to look great. With a controller, which I'm using right now, you can see that's much more smoother. So obviously with a keyboard, we're not going to get that fine-grained control, but it's nice that it works with both. And, you know, those are just two simple kind of upgrades, and that's going to help us moving forward. Thank you guys for watching.